As you have heard from the introduction, I'm going to talk about reporting bugs today. So, can everyone who has ever in their life reported a bug raise their hand? Almost everyone, that's good. Now, raise your hand if you have read a bug report for which you said, wow, that's a great bug report. It was very easy to understand it. Okay, I see few hands. That's good. And have you seen such a bug report that is really awful and you said, what? What is that? I can almost everyone again. Okay, so with my talk, I'm going to try to make more reports like the first one and less like the second one. So, first things first, few words about me. How many of you have seen this? Not many? Yeah, I'm that old, sorry. This is a game called Karateka, and this is how I got inspired with computers and started learning programming. Later on, it was really more interesting to me to break the software rather to create it. So I started to catch bugs, and I really love that. This is a photo from 2 days ago from Kaunas. This is my first time in Lithuania, and I'm already more than 20 years in IT and 15 plus years professionally doing QA. Also, I'm trying to write my PhD about test automation, which is not very successful up to now. But anyway, what is the most important thing when reporting bugs? Of course, to catch them. This is a conference I'm also organizing, so you are invited to come to Bulgaria and visit it. So, the most important thing is to spot the details. Yesterday I just traveled with the bus, and I would like to show you some photos I made. So this is the first one of the bus stop, and as you can see, the sign of the bus stop is at really good place. Everyone sees it, right? Okay, so inside the bus you can see that there is a small time difference. And then I just stepped off on a stop which had a fence that nobody needed. It's completely done. The work is completely done. And this is my favorite, a common case when you have many requirements and not that much space. What I'm trying to say is that bugs, they are all around us. So, on average, every single bug report is read by at least 5 people, but this is on average. Usually, there are some dialogues like these. So, yeah, you are smiling because I'm sure you have been into that, right? So, if you invest just 3 more minutes in your bug report, it will be much better and it may save hours to your entire team. How? I'm going to go through 15 common problems and find solutions for most of them at least. And one of the most common is problem number 1, when nothing works at all, and the typical QA says, okay, it doesn't work, I don't care. Fix it and give it again to me. Okay, those guys should have invested some effort in providing a working build. So if you have this problem, then usually you need to think about your entry criteria, which by you I mean the entire team. So the developers should check their acceptance criteria, check if their software compiles, installs, runs, if their unit tests pass, and the best part for the QAs would be to have some automated sanity tests that can provide immediate feedback for less than 5 minutes, let's say. and see if something is totally wrong and fix it quickly. To achieve that, of course, you have to work on the same environment, which means correct build, version, configuration, test data, and so on. Problem number 2. Okay, there is a bug, something doesn't work. Make that little effort to check in Jira or whatever bug tracking tool you use and see if someone else before you didn't report the bug. Because otherwise this consumes a lot of time, marking as duplicate, see which version goes where, and so on. Problem 3. Are you able to reproduce the bug? And this is something that I argue a lot of with my colleagues. So quickly, how many of you think that they should report a bug they are unable to reproduce? 1, 2 hands I see only? Okay, a little bit more. So how many think that they should not report the bug if they are not able to reproduce it? Again, the same quantity of hands. Okay, so this is my own opinion. You may agree or disagree with it. But I will tell you a strange story, and this is the story about the 6 men and the dark room. So, in short, the story says this. There were 6 men and a dark room, so they wanted to understand what's inside. The first one entered the room, tried to touch, and said, "Wow, this is an arrow," and got out of the room. The second one decided to recheck that, entered and said, "Are you crazy? This is not an arrow, it is a snake." Then the third one entered and he said, "Okay, this is a hand fan." "Guys, are you crazy?" said the fourth one. "This is just a tree." And like this, the fifth said, "It's a wall," the sixth, "It's a rope." And only when they gathered all the information they had, they actually found out what is really inside the room. So my opinion is that even if you are unable to fix a bug, report what you have, attach some logs, some screenshots, and maybe someone after you will find something else. And going with this again and again, you will at the end reach to the source of the problem. Problem 4 is that many people report the bugs like this. It doesn't work. And I'm not joking. This is a screenshot from a company I was consulting. And as you can see here, more than 2,500 bugs containing the phrase "it doesn't work." Yeah. So I have forbidden my team to report bugs like that. And think what happens when you go, for example, to a doctor. Which one is better? I feel unwell, or I have headache, runny nose, and 38 degrees temperature. Yeah. So try to provide clues. Actually, our profession is quite similar to the doctor's one. I mean, doctors ask about thing called anamnesis, where they ask about your name, your age, height, weight, family and childhood history, allergies, work environment. And when we are describing a bug, we do something quite similar, just code the different things with different names. We ask about title, priority, severity, build, version, environment, steps to reproduce, and so on. So what a good bug should contain? Of course, short but enough description. One line should say it all. So look at the example. So the first one is telling us exactly what to do. Open file manager, try to copy a file, and then try to cancel it. I even don't need to read the description of the bug and understand everything. It's quite different compared to software crashes. So, however, if I had only one thing to add in my bug report, it would be steps to reproduce. It is the most important part, and you should pay attention to the details. It is not only about opening Gmail in another window. It could be, let's say, not with the mouse, but pressing command key and then. It could be not gmail.com, but mail.google.com. It could be not HTTP, but HTTPS. So sometimes every little detail matters. And of course you need expected versus actual result. And you again should pay attention in the details. For example, errors that mean nothing to us, like minus 91, may mean really a lot to an experienced developer. So, next problem is about setting priority and severity. I'm not going to ask what is priority, severity, everyone knows that, but sometimes people are just arguing about what is the priority and what is the severity. So, gather up and try to think of some definition. What is very high, for example, what is low, what is medium, and when you are ready, you just print it out and have it visible for everyone. And of course, you can do the same for the severity. So when I know that there is a problem, but it has workaround, probably it would be a major or serious severity. So these definitions are very important, so really put them somewhere visible to everyone, and you will save a lot of time about reinvesting in priority and severity. So usually people are lazy, you know, so QA team, in our company at least, the QA team sets the priority and proposes the QA team sets the severity and proposes the priority, and product team can amend that priority later. So we even created a simple mapping script that says, okay, if both are set, good. If one is set, map the other to it. And if none is set, just don't allow publishing the bug until at least one of those two is set. It works to some extent, but you should require without setting the default value. We made the mistake initially to set the default value to medium, and here is what happened when we got the summary of the bugs. So do not set any default value to have a good distribution of the bugs. Problem number 6, testing in incorrect environment. What does it mean? I already mentioned you need to have good versioning, and I would say that semantic versioning is one good option, where you increase the major version when you have backward incompatible changes, or otherwise you raise the minor version, and if you have only bug fixes, you increase the patch number. So you can go to semver.org and see the details about semantic versioning if you haven't heard of that. All right. So next problem is when people simply don't know what we are talking about. How to describe the bug. Of course, by providing screenshots and videos, the good bug report should have at least one. And of course, you have to have all the valuable sources of information to be attached. If you wonder whether to include a piece of information or not, rather include it. So I would say two of my favorite free tools for screenshots and for video capturing. So these are both free. That's why I'm listing them. One is GreenShot, and the other one is TinyTake for video capturing. Okay, so a question which is quite common is, can one report a bug without giving all of the things I have mentioned and, let's say, just screenshot? Why not? Can you find out what is the problem with this patient if you are a doctor? Yeah, I guess so. So, for example, here, if you miss the main logo, I don't think I need to describe all the fields and all the information about steps to reproduce and actual results and expected results, it will take more time for the people to read it. And this screenshot says it all, I think. Another thing you could think of is combining several issues into one Jira item or one defect. This one, I knew that it was to a pattern that was regular expression that need to be validated, so it's okay to report several issues like this, but sometimes it may cause more hassle. So if you have to report the issues separately, do not forget to link those, because often fixing one bug can open another, and so on. So this one is another interesting example. Actually, here you can see that select queries are run in the background of the browser. So actually, I reported the bug, and they said, "Okay, so what?" And I said, "How what? You can get an SQL injection." And instead of reporting expected and actual results and so on, what I did was just to attach a screenshot and explain a little bit about the SQL injection. So this was considered also as a good bug report. Okay, next problem is when everything is broken. Okay, so what do I mean? You need to investigate. This is, I'm saying this for third time only in this talk, but this is very important because as QAs we tend to say, okay, it doesn't work, find the answer. So again, try to think about not only that computer is working slowly, but try to investigate what happens, what is the CPU utilization, are there any processes that cause this? So you can find the reason behind the symptom. So this is one of the interesting issues I have investigated. I just went into the code. The problem was that it worked perfectly when you select 2 days in a week or 2 months, but when you select only one item, it didn't work, and it was because else for 1 month was missed. So I just reported the bug inside the commit. So another problem is when you start to be too scientific, and what I'm about to show is a real bug report. So this is a real bug report written by a developer. API request to CDN forces refetch from origin Azure storage that invalidates CC header set to the blob on R when BSP is enabled together with ZDF. He wasn't able to understand that himself 2 weeks later. And yeah, and the reason behind that was that just old website logo is loaded instead of the rebranded one. Another problem would be, however, investigating too much. You really need to stop before it's too late. Why? Compare those two, for example. DB data was accidentally deleted, and DB data was accidentally deleted. I tried reinstalling the software, defragmented the hard disk drive, but nothing helped. Okay, I cannot help you either if you did all of this. That's why problem number 11 is to be able to restore. You have so many options nowadays. You can take snapshots, have virtual machines, archive Docker images, and so on. So never test, especially on production, without having a way to go back if something is going wrong. This is very, very important. So actually, sometimes there is no going back. This is one of my other defects, which is how admin can kill themselves by removing one of the most important permissions. And as you can see, I put in red letters that after this step, the whole thing is irreversible. The only way to actually recover this was via the database. So I just added the recovery query inside the bug. And this is how I saved a lot of time for each developer to figure out what is the DB query to get back to where they were. So, okay, but sometimes, you know, doctors don't want their patients to tell them what their diagnosis is. So be sure that you distinguish the facts and what is actually happening versus observation, what do you think is happening. So another very important part is to make your reports easy to format, and I'm going to walk you through this with a simple example. Let's just imagine we have a Windows calculator and it calculates wrongly. 2 plus 2 equals 5. Okay? So I just write a short description which says go to Windows calculator, type 2, enter plus, insert 2, and then press equals and see that the result is 5. Then I try 3 plus 3, 1 plus 1, 4 plus 4, 2 plus 3, 3 plus 2, 8 plus 6, and only the last 3 worked. Great bug report, isn't it? Only 2 lines. And it takes so much time to read it and understand it. So what can be done? First of all, let's do some formatting. Having those headings would give us the possibility to read it much easier. So having expected result, actual results give us very quickly the information we need. What else? This is very good for any documentation. If the order of items is important, use a numbered list. Otherwise, use a bulleted list. Sounds like a small detail, but it's also very important. So we number the steps and put bullets for the different test cases. So we could group them and be consistent. So look here, we have go to Windows calculator, then type, then enter, then insert, then press. And yeah, in our literature classes, we have learned that repetition is not a good thing, but in technical documentation, it's the opposite. So try to be consistent. Put as less words as possible and use the same words for the same actions. And we can group the results and see that only when the both numbers are equal, only in that case we get the incorrect result. And note, this is an observation from our side. It's not a fact. So we can add some formatting like bold, italic, monospaced in order to get it much quicker. And we could use traffic lights logic when possible. Green for the good things and red for bad things. Why I'm telling this? I had a project manager who said that green is not good, it is a poison green, and red is good because it's candy red. So green for good things, red for bad things. And you can compare what happens between the initial report and what we had at the end. Actually, what we have on the right side is much bigger, but at the same time, it's much easier to read, and you can compare that. So green and red can be used for many other things, and one interesting use of that is when you have when you have to retest the bug, you have QA passed or QA failed. We put it in big green or red letters, and it's very easy to see what happened with the bug. Actually, my colleagues even made some stamps because it looks cooler. And later on, it evaluated in an app where you just choose the environment, choose the browsers you are testing on, you get automatically the version, and you just press QA pass or QA fail, and you get all the messages, so you are sure that you haven't missed anything. And if you are good in HTML, you can provide the details about the environment in such a graphical way. This is actually part of report that is generated, and it is very easy to see what happens where, on which version. And that is quite easy to see, understand, and find the exact data you need if you have it as a comment in Jira, for example. So, problem 14 is dealing with it fast and easy. What do I mean? This is Mark Twain, and he says that the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between whitening and whitening book. So try to choose the proper words. For beginning, use present tense. Look at the first one and look at the second one. So it is much faster and easier if all the words are in present tense. Another thing is to be consistent. As I said, you don't need to try to be very artistic when writing the reports. Try to be consistent and have the same structure. Like Win 10 Home should have blue icon, Win 10 Pro should have purple icon. Order matters, you know that. So try to put the things in the proper order. Here is one example. If the disk is full, delete the file. This is the proper thing to do. Because if you write delete the file if the disk is full, someone may follow the report. Delete the file. Only if the disk is full. Sorry. So, yeah, you should be very careful about the order. Another thing is to avoid including a long series of items in a sentence. When you have many items, you can either put them in a bulleted or numbered list, and it's easier to read this way. It is also important to be very careful when you have long sentences like this one. So I will focus on the second part. When you delete an item from the table, all of its assigned values are deleted. Which ones? Tables or systems ones? So be careful about this. Or another thing that is very interesting in the English language, you can put as many nouns as you want. So you can get something like check the device adapter card port signals or something like that. Put some short words between the long ones to make it easier to read. Also, avoid redundancies, like you don't need to say in order to or initial introduction. You can make it quite shorter. And also you can avoid the imprecise statements. If you cannot make a concrete statement because of exceptions, then list these exceptions. So words like sometimes, usually, often, those words are just making you unsure, and the one who reads your reports also unsure. And the last thing is practice together. Gather up the entire team, let's say Friday afternoon for an hour or two, and read each other's reports. When you have read each other's reports, we are much better in finding other people's problems or mistakes. So I'm sure you're going to improve. And peer reviews are actually a very good way. So give your book reports to your colleagues and ask them if these reports are very easy to read or not. Another thing I would recommend you to try would be the so-called crowd testing. What you see on your screens are all different crowd testing services. Everyone has heard of crowd testing? Yeah. So it is very, very good for beginners to start learning, but trust me, I know very senior QA who tried to submit their book reports and it was rejected 4 times. And he improved really a lot from that. So try submitting some bug reports and you will see that what can be done about those. And yeah, one final Lithuanian proverb for the end. So, kadari daryk gerai. So, if you have any questions, I love questions. You can do it here or there, now or later.